If you've ever been called lazy, dramatic, or told you just need to try harder, this deep dive might change how you see yourself.
Yeah, we're looking at a stack of recent clinical research today to debunk 5 incredibly damaging myths about ADHD. And the goal here isn't just to validate your experience, but to actually explain the neurology behind why your brain works the way it does.
Right. And let's just tackle the most obvious misconception head on, which is myth number one, the idea that ADHD means you can't focus. I mean, people hear attention deficit and assume your brain just constantly lacks attention entirely.
Which totally makes sense from the outside looking in, right? But neurologically, it's actually an issue of attention regulation. Researchers are starting to refer to this as a variable attention stimulus trait, or VST.
Wait, VAC, so it's not a deficit at all.
Exactly. Your brain isn't incapable of focusing. It actually has the capacity to hyperfocus for hours on end. The impairment is really just in the ability to direct that focus on demand.
Oh, wow. So it's not a broken engine, it's more like a manual transmission stuck in the wrong gear.
That is a perfect way to put it, yeah.
Okay, but if someone has this intense hyperfocus capability, why do we have this deeply ingrained stereotype of, young boys bouncing off the walls?
Yeah.
Because that leads right into myth number two, that ADHD is just hyperactive kids.
Right, and that contradiction is exactly why millions of adults go undiagnosed for decades. We, as a society, only look for the disruptive symptoms like physical hyperactivity. But as you grow up, that physical energy often internalizes.
Internalizes, like how so?
Well, it turns into a racing mind that just won't shut off. So the hyperactivity is still there, it's just in your head instead of your body.
So if you are, say, a female daydreamer, you just slip through the cracks entirely because your internal restlessness isn't, bothering your teacher or your boss.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And because it's hidden, people judge the external results. When you struggle to execute a task, society assumes it's a lack of willpower, which brings us to myth number 3, the whole just try harder mentality.
Oh, yeah. People see a messy desk or a missed deadline and just assume you aren't applying enough effort.
Exactly. And this is where understanding the neuroscience is so crucial. ADHD is a neurological executive function impairment. It's literally considered a performance disorder.
A performance disorder, what does that actually mean in practice?
It means the bridge between knowing what to do and actually doing it is neurologically blocked. So your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning and initiating action, well, it isn't communicating properly with your motor systems.
Wait, let me make sure I'm getting this. Are you saying someone can know a task is vital, desperately want to do it, and their brain literally will not send the signal to start?
That is the exact reality of a performance disorder, yes. Effort was never the missing piece here. The chemical signaling is what's missing.
That is wild. It's like having an understaffed air traffic control tower in your brain. The planes are there, but no one is cleared for
I
takeoff.
love that analogy. Yes, exactly.
But then how do you explain the video game phenomenon? Because the next thing people throw around, myth number 4, is if you can play video games for hours, you don't have ADHD.
Oh, I hear this one all the time.
Right. Like, if the prefrontal cortex is blocking the signal, how can someone suddenly focus on gaming for 5 hours straight, but they can't do a 10-minute chore? Like, what is actually happening in the brain there?
Well, it all comes down to dopamine. Neurotypical brains are what we call importance-based. They can generate enough dopamine to complete a mundane task just because it has consequences.
Right, like paying a bill so your power doesn't get shut off.
Exactly. But the ADHD brain is interest-based. It struggles to manufacture dopamine for those mundane tasks. It desperately needs novelty, challenge, and urgency to spark that chemical fuel.
So it's literally a biological hunt for dopamine, not a character flaw. It's like trying to run a high-powered smartphone app on 1% battery. You can't even turn the screen on for a boring chore. But the video game plugs the brain directly into a high-voltage dopamine charger.
That is a fantastic way to look at it, yeah. Video games provide instant, continuous dopamine hits. So it's not stubborn, selective willpower you're seeing. It's a biological imperative. Your brain is just hunting for the fuel it needs to function.
Which makes the final myth so heartbreaking, honestly. Myth number 5, the idea that ADHD is just an excuse for being lazy. Because society only sees the unfinished chores, not the invisible chemical drought happening inside.
And that invisible effort is staggering. People with ADHD spend enormous amounts of energy masking their symptoms, constantly overriding their executive dysfunction just to keep up with neurotypical expectations.
It has to be exhausting, right?
Beyond exhausting, this chronic strain leads to severe neurological exhaustion, which we often call the ADHD burnout cycle.
So you aren't lazy. You're actually working like 3 times as hard just to appear like you're functioning at baseline.
Exactly. And that exhaustion is very, very real. So if you're listening and recognizing your own struggles in this, it's vital to understand that you aren't broken. You're just operating a uniquely wired system that requires a completely different user manual.
That is such an incredibly validating point to end on. But before we wrap up, I was looking through these clinical notes, and there's a fascinating term that caught my eye: rejection-sensitive dysphoria, or RSD.
Oh, yeah. RSD is a huge piece of this puzzle.
Right, because it suggests that a lot of what we label as procrastination or task avoidance might actually be a neurological pain response, right?
It is a profound shift in perspective, for sure. RSD basically means the brain anticipates the excruciating pain of criticism or failure so intensely that it paralyzes the initiation of a task entirely, almost as a defense mechanism.
Wow. So that paralyzing fear starting isn't a character flaw. It's literally your brain trying to protect you. Next time you're called dramatic or told to just try harder, remember that your operating system isn't broken. You just need the right kind of power source.